special meeting for May 20th, 2024 to order, and ask everyone to put your phones on silence and apologize for being a few minutes late. We were into a huge discussion. Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Present.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Suller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Public hearings. Presentation, discussion, and public hearing considering approval of resolution number 24-13, adoption of tentative budget for fiscal year. Matt.
Your Honor, thank you. We reviewed this presentation 2 weeks ago with the City Council at the last work session. If you'd like us to, we're prepared to go through the same presentation again. If not, we can go straight into the public hearing, but we have nothing new in the budget to share, no changes from last time, as well as no changes to the classification and compensation plan, nor the pension funding policy. And those are up for consideration tonight, along with the public hearings.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. Matt, the new, I think it's Marketing and Communications Director position, I was looking through that list, I didn't see it. Is it in there and I just didn't see it?
It is in there.
It is.
It is. I'm not sure which list you're referring to, but is it in the attachments for tonight, or in the classification plan?
The jet classification, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at Anna, and she's going to double check on her sheets right now.
It is. It's on page 2. It is 5th from the bottom.
Page 2, 5th from the bottom.
Marketing and Communications. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Just checking, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. As a public hearing, would anyone like to speak on this item? And I see all kinds of movement. Okay, I guess I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion. Do I have a motion?
Your Honor.
We need it for each one.
Yes.
I move that resolution number 24-13, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction for the adoption of the tentative budget for the city of Apache Junction for fiscal year 2024 to 2025, herewithin setting forth the tentative estimates for the money necessary for the public expense and giving notice of the time and place of hearing taxpayers for the adoption of the final budget and declaring an emergency be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Suller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Unanimous. You
Thank you. Presentation, discussion, public hearing, consideration, and approval of resolution number 24-16, declaring as a public record and adopting certain documents filed with the city clerk entitled City of Apache Junction Civilian Classification and Compensation Plan for fiscal year 2024-2025, and the City of Apache Junction Recruit and Sworn Compensation Plan for fiscal year 2024-2025, and declaring an emergency. Anna.
Your Honor, I'll go ahead and take this one.
Okay.
I apologize, Anna's name was on there. But again, this is actually what Councilmember Heck was referring to when he asked his question, the position list that the City Council adopts each year with the budget, as well as the salary schedules, which gives the pay ranges for each of those positions. And this is one of those things that's just attached with the budget. It gives HR their parameters to work within when they're recruiting. And it's also up for your consideration for approval tonight, as well as a public hearing. If I might suggest, you could take this next public hearing for the next two items together. I'd meant to mention that with the first one, but along with the pension funding policy, which is something we are required to adopt each year, but really hasn't changed much since the City Council adopted the bond to for the police pension.
Okay, that's presentation, discussion, and public hearing, consideration, and approval of the City of Apache Junction Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Pension Funding Policy.
Correct. That's it. That's the same one. So if it pleases the council, unless there's any questions, you could have one public hearing for those two items, but then there'd be two separate motions for your consideration.
Okay, any discussion from the council?
No, I just have to apologize. I thought we were handling all three of these at the same time.
Yeah, it's okay.
So that's why I asked
that-
that question.
Yeah, and that was the intent. I don't think I was clear in my explanation, so I apologize for that.
Sorry, didn't mean to confuse the issue.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on these two items? I see the same type of movement. So I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask for a motion for resolution number 24-16.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that resolution number 24-16, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, declaring as a public record and adopting certain documents filled with the city clerk entitled City of Apache Junction Civilian Classification and Compensation Plan for Fiscal Year 2024 through 2025, and City of Apache Junction Recruit and Sworn Compensation Plan for Fiscal Year 2024 through 2025, and declaring an emergency be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Solar,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Now for a motion for the City of Apache Junction Public Safety Personnel Retirement System.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the City of Apache Junction's Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Pension Funding Policy be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Solar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll adjourn this meeting. Now I'd like to call City of Apache Junction's work session to order. Roll call?
Mayor Wilson,
Yes, here? Excuse
Vice
me.
Mayor Schroeder,
Present.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Solar.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Agenda, presentation, discussion of case number P 23-12-8-ART for the proposed public art mural along the eastern wall of a new multi-family development. Oh, there you was.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name's Erica Hernandez. I'm a planner on staff. I'm also the staff liaison for the Public Arts Commission. I'm just going to give a brief introduction to the proposed project and to the artist, and then she's going to come up here and do her own presentation. So this is for a proposed public art mural along a 350-foot wall for the new multifamily residential development called The Residences at Apache Trail. This is located on the southwest corner of Tomahawk and Broadway. This proposal had two public hearings with the Public Arts Commission, and Paige Reeser will come up here and discuss the recommended mural by the Public Arts Commission.
Thank you, Erica. Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. My name is Paige Reeser, and I'm an artist and muralist here in Phoenix, Arizona. My journey as an artist first started off in Arizona about 11 years ago. Here in Apache Junction as a public school art teacher. So my roots first started here. Since then, I've been growing in the community around Apache Junction and the Phoenix area, creating murals with themes around Arizona landscapes, portraits, and animals. Many of my murals I create are a lot of detail and realism, vibrant colors, and I have an accuracy with speed in getting those murals done on a efficient, rapid pace. Some of my large-scale pieces I can finish in a day or two. So like, for instance, these pieces I was able to complete actually live in front of like a festival and was able to complete them within a matter of a day. And then larger pieces like this one, I completed in about a week and a half. So you can kind of see my skill level and being able to be efficient in getting a project done in a timely manner. So you can see the art piece come to life very quickly. This piece right here is about, I would say 40 by 15 feet high for this one, and then it is actually extended even further as it goes along. For this project, we are going to be working, I was hired by the 29th Street Capitol for a new multi-family development known as the Residencies at Apache Trail, located on the south corner of Broadway and Tomahawk Road. The 29th Street Capitol has hired me to create this mural not only as a gift for the residents, but also as a, for Apache Junction community as a whole. This wall is going to be facing east on Tomahawk Road. So if you're looking at this image right here, you can see this is where the mural will be right here. They're actually in the midst of constructing it right now. And it's going to be about a 350-foot mural, about 6 feet high on that. So if you're looking at this is the bare, what the cinder block roughly could look like. I feel like they're starting to get it a little bit further out with the construction part of this. And then this is where we decided to pick on this mural right here. So here is just how large it would look on the wall itself. But here are the close-up images that I'm going to be working with. I worked digitally in my Procreate. It's a system that I can use to digitally draw. I mock them up. I'm about accuracy, is about 95% accuracy once I draw it on here and then put it onto the mural. My themes around this mural is to showcase not only the beauty of Arizona, but what makes Apache Junction special. One thing I've always remembered when I would come out to Cactus Canyon Junior High is every day after work, I would actually go out to the Lost Dutchman State Park and kind of take my canvas and I would actually paint the sceneries around me. So one thing I really love about these pieces here is not only you can see the Superstition Mountain, but then you also see more highlights of it, like the Flatiron and the Massacre Falls, and then even off in the distance where you can see Four Peaks as well. I wanted to focus a lot on the wildlife and animals that we have here in Apache Junction, having some that are not only the cute animals, but also some of the little more dangerous ones as well. Focusing also on high detail with the cacti and the blooms as well, using a lot of color that make it pop and stand out against the more blue, minimal landscapes. So each of these spaces, kind of right here, are about 50 feet across. And then as you're having the in-between spaces, I will have a little bit more of a minimal landscape, kind of showing a lot of depth and perspective. Reason why using a lot of dark blue, it works really well with UV light and being able to last a lot longer than using lighter tones. So making sure that I want to be more conscious of keeping the mural lasting for 20 years rather than just a few years. So, but with that, I would love to open up any questions that you guys have when it comes to the mural.
I have a question. Looking at the concepts here, is this where all four of these would end up being stretched out, so we would have each one of those?
Yes, so each of these is one here, one here, one here, and one here. And I just did a close-up version of it because from this angle, it's a little harder to see. So I try to do a little bit of close-ups of it. And then the blue right here is using the in-between spaces. And it kind of helps break up your eye a little bit. So you're not just all of a sudden like intense color. Having a little bit of blue in between kind of helps soften your eyes as you're kind of going down the road.
Well, you know, we got a few of these options that came in our information as to other things that you were looking at. But this is what you guys have decided on rather than any of the other options that we were shown.
Yes, that is correct.
That's what I wanted to know.
Got a question.
Yes.
The only two things I see missing from this is a coyote and a horse.
A coyote and a horse, okay.
Because those are two big things. Apache Junction is known as a horse community. You know, we got the wild horses just down the road, and coyotes run everywhere around here. I don't know if you can put them in or not, but I really like this. This is really gorgeous.
We could always leave a little bit more room for like maybe the other side. I was focused, like the cougar looks so like intense there, but we can always add another animal that's not like it's a easy fix right there.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions?
Looks beautiful.
Well, yeah, I think the choice of the options is the right choice, color-wise, palette. And I agree, it would be nice to see some horses in there, but maybe incorporate a herd of them in the blue sky as a shadow.
I was just gonna say the same thing as we have the blue that is in between. You could have something there that is just in shadow.
Silhouettes like.
Yeah, like more of a silhouette. I could look and see how that would potentially look. I want to make sure that I'm not over busying it.
Right.
So making sure that we're like resting, kind of using this space as more of like a resting part of your eyes, since these parts are going to be pretty colorful, detailed. But I'm also fine also putting in a horse somewhere as well. Also, I like the idea of a coyote kind of with the Roadrunner too.
There you go.
That would be good. That would actually be really good.
That's poetry right there.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Is this your biggest mural to date?
It would be, yes, it would be. My smallest mural, besides this one, I've had a 150-foot, and then I've also had, size-wise, height-wise, I've gone 30 feet up in the air. So I feel like the ones that go higher are actually more challenging. This is easier to stay on the ground.
And is this the only mock-up you have for the example here in these slides?
In these slides, yeah, the past ones, we needed an approval with the Arts Commission, so we just wanted to make sure that we just stayed focused on these main focuses. The other ones were just slightly different colors, mostly in the, like this part, but I wanted to make sure that we're using colors that have longevity, where if you're using a lot of yellows, that fades very, very quickly. And where I can do quick little touch-ups of yellow, come back in a few years and do those yellows, where doing a whole mural with bright yellows, that's like a way bigger job to do.
Because I'm looking at number 3, and that's got, it has the blue also in it. And it has like the desert landscape with the blue in the back. And to me, it kind of blends in better. Don't get me wrong, I love this. This is great. I feel like when you look at it, you're looking at 4 different murals instead of a real cohesive type of blend in with each other. But I mean, you're the artist here, so I'll defer to your better judgment.
Just want you to know I hiked every one of those places.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I have a question. This is our first project where the developer has gone to choose their own artist instead of, putting the money into the Arts Commission.
Instead of paying the permit, yeah.
Yeah. How did the developer choose you?
I would like to think it's, first of all, my talent. I worked with I have a lot of murals in Tempe, and one of the, I wouldn't say the developer, but Tim that worked with him with the landscaping, he's the one that recommended for it.
Okay.
So, yep, they've known my work for quite a many years, so.
So the developer went out looking and talking to other developers, and you got recommended?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to clarify the process of a few years back, how you went through to get some art in the community. This is now the first one where the private developer is choosing the option where they pay for on their private property to do something like this. And of course, review it with our Arts Commission and with you all. And it is proposed for the consent agenda in 2 weeks for you all to review.
No other question? Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to enjoy it.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for help beautifying our city.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Presentation, discussion of fiscal year 24-25 Health and Human Services funding recommendations.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Health and Human Services Commission received 8 applications for funding this year. The commission interviewed all applicants in March, on March 25th. At that time, the applicants presented information on their requests and the services that would be provided or lost depending upon the funding that each nonprofit received. On April 22nd, the commission discussed alternative funding recommendations and voted on their final funding recommendations. This year, you as council will see 2 funding options. One is based on $80,000, the other is based on $90,000. Total funding requested this year was $242,585 compared to last year at $131,260. The significant change arose from a new applicant who was unfamiliar with the annual allocation of funds. Council does have the prerogative to amend or modify these recommendations, in which case we can bring this item back to a regular meeting to amend any of the funding. So at this time, I would like to introduce Chairman Brenner from the Health and Human Services Commission, and he will do a presentation on each nonprofit and how they came up with their funding recommendations.
Welcome.
Welcome. So, Mayor Wilson and council members, I'm Dr. Michael Brennan. I'm the chair of the Health and Human Services Commission. The only thing I'd add that Evie had submitted to you is that we had interviews in March. We reviewed the initial applications in February, and then interviews took place with the applicants. The only application that was not represented was the one for Health and Human Services. They had asked for a special provision to do a telephonic interview, and somehow we had some glitch that didn't take place. They were invited into the April meeting, but for reasons that are unclear, they didn't come. As Evie noted, we dealt initially with the sum of $80,000 and proportionally dealt with that. We then gave Jennifer an interesting equation saying that we'll use percentages for the 80 to reallocate the additional 10 if it becomes available. And that's how you have the second number to sort of remain in continuity with the initial decisions. So let me go through these, if you please. So a new leaf, which really took over in a merger in 2021 of CAFA, an organization that deals with domestic abuse. And they wanted $7,000, predominantly for hotel stays, transiently, food, essentials, transportation for domestic and sexual violence, supervisors in Apache Junction. We know that most sexual offense facilities do not domicile those individuals in the community in which they've been abused. That's for their protection and to remain with some anonymity in some other outlying community. And there's an interrelationship that a New Leaf has with various other suburban communities in Phoenix as well. So that's where they end up with. After reviewing what they had wanted, the decision was made that we would recommend that $6,000 be allocated to that, with the subsequent sum predicated on the additional $10,000 of $6,750. Again, I will be glad to answer any questions about how that came to be if you so desire. The next organization is a longstanding one, and one that has annually submitted requests for funding. That's AJCDC. Their commission is one-of-a-kind organization in which all of the participants are voluntary. They have Make It Better Day that they have annually, and they predominantly deal with code violations, and that's a big issue. And they've been able to use that successfully and demonstrate efficacy by demonstrating that they receive information about a code violation, they investigate whether or not the individual owns a property, and then they make provisions to have renovations, and then judge the results by virtue of whether or not it now meets code. So that has a metric to it that is pretty good now. The recommendation is that they receive $3,500, with the added sum being $39.38. The reason that these are somewhat limited is because the $80,000 is really pretty limited in some ways, and there was a general sentiment that 3 organizations predominantly provided the greater immediate needs to the community, and those included the Boys and Girls Club, the Superstition Community Food Bank, and as well the CAFA, because of the sexual abuse, and that being the only entity that really deals with that. Boys and Girls Club has made annual requests, and the commission thought that as they reviewed their funding, they had a gala event last year that rendered $175,000 and a more recent one at $200,000. This lent to the idea that perhaps their request was appropriate, but nonetheless was less needy financially than many of the other applicants, if you will. The services they provide for 351 individuals in Apache Junction, the vast majority, as we reviewed them, were juveniles. They were preteens and early teens. They had very few individuals that were in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. In fact, last year they only had 2 people in 12th grade that graduated. I talked to them about that, asked whether or not maybe the issue is the very program and its orientation, because in talking to some academics in the community, I discovered that more senior adolescents felt that it was not addressing their needs, and therefore they didn't particularly relate. So it was recommended that perhaps they look at that and incorporate that going forward. So the recommendation was for $9,100 with $10,238 with the subsequent budget if it's approved. Superstition Community Food Bank was the one that seems to have the most active and robust involvement with the community and have the broadest spectrum of services. And therefore, you'll see they got the lion's portion of the funds that were there. They have a program that deals with, a new program that deals with students over vacation intervals and weekends, in which with food, very limited families, that they provide a backpack that has been filled every weekend to provide additional foods to these students. Therefore, the recommendation was, as noted, $50,000 with $56,250 with the other funding if it is available. Bigger Than Us was a unique organization, absolutely new to the community. They are from Northwest United States. They were police officers in Seattle. And they have become very actively involved in suicide prevention and had a program there. And their major mode of intervention was to deal with a nationally recognized individual that they brought in at their request of 3 times at $5,000 a time. They had some benefit with the cadets, and that seemed to have been well received. So they were encouraged to look at that as first responders and deal with that community, but as well to reconsider the issue of perhaps this outside advocate and accept the $5,000 base, and my encouragement that they look at the Arizona Department of Health Services prevention program for 2024 to 2026. It has remarkable information, includes several metrics, inclusive of various subsets of individuals from indigenous groups to Hispanic communities to rural communities, etc. And there may be additional funding that they could tap into with that resource that might lend to their eventual efforts. Again, $5,000 was recommended to assist in the professional speaker program, perhaps, but maybe some other adaptation, and then seek out the funding potentially available from Arizona Department of Health Services. Begin Again Homes was another unique entity, and they dealt with emergency housing for families, seniors, veterans, and homeless. But their intervention was remarkably limited. And it seemed that as they had their proposal, there was a large proportion of funding that was allocated to salaries. And that didn't appear to meet the requirement of what was most directly a benefit to the populace of Apache Junction. And therefore, the recommendation was that they receive $3,000, with the added sum being $33.75, as noted. Horizon Health and Wellness, as I said, was not able to present, and therefore we were at a loss about certain aspects. They requested a refrigerator and shelving. The refrigerator was to deal with produce that was developed in the garden there. When you calculated out the yield that was there and how much it served the populace, it was approximately a half a pound of produce per individual that they served. That didn't seem to warrant a refrigerator per se. And perhaps there were some other options on getting a refrigerator. The shelving seemed to be something that might work because dry goods could be there, and therefore they didn't have to struggle with perishables, and they had some sources for that. So sadly, they got the more paltry sum of $400 for shelving, with a recommendation at $450 the addendum. Chapel Desert Chapel is the entity that made the largest request. They're very new, and they didn't understand some of the parameters of the funding, and much of their request stemmed from structural necessities. Redoing cabinets, redoing a clothing closet, as well as repairing refrigeration units, etc. And I had some concerns because they were really very good at presenting an elaborate video of their facility and the needs, and it appeared that they may have some interesting complications if reviewed by the health department for whether or not they met standards for having an operable kitchen. They did, however, pass that. They made some provisions. They got some repairs for refrigeration units. And because Arizona has had very excessive numbers of deaths last summer because of the heat that we experienced, with anticipation that this summer will be equal or worse, that their ability to provide for a heat respite was really of concern to me as a physician, and something that I think is very short in supply here, and therefore they were able to provide that. The recommendation was that they receive $3,000 to help with the air conditioning unit costs, with $33.75 if the other provisional funds are made available. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, so, it's Dr. Brenner, right? Dr.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
No,
Thank you for the
I mean, that
presentation.
I'm a doctor.
Pardon?
That was a bad joke, that I'm a doctor.
Oh, you're not?
I am.
Oh, you are?
No, no, it's,
Oh.
I'm a psychiatrist, and so, people usually wonder, well, why'd you ever do that? Well, that was my fault.
Okay, all right. I was gonna psychoanalyze everything I say.
No, 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 no.
Trouble.
Great, that'll be good. No, just a couple observations, pardon? No, couple observations. And I know this had to be a very difficult decision process, because everybody wants, they want to maximize the opportunity for the funding. I kind of look right away at organizations that have a parent, one that serves not just Apache Junction, but serves the greater Phoenix area, if you will, like Kappa or New Leaf. Now, I know they do great work. I know some of those folks, and they do great work. But they also have some support from the larger entity, whereas some of these local organizations, the Community Development Corporation, the food bank, the the Begin Again homes, they're local folks. They are, whatever they get, they use it for this community. The Bigger Than Us, again, I think that sounds like it's a worthy enterprise. Certainly bullying and all that is so important to try and address. But I feel like that's something that isn't necessarily top priority for what the funding we have. So, and again, I'm not suggesting to change it, but just maybe next year I'm gonna kind of look a little more closely, because, and I'm also thinking that maybe next year we might even put a few more dollars into this, because some of these organizations really need support. But I also want to make certain that we're putting the funding where where it serves us right here in Apache Junction.
That was the consensus of the commission, that we made it very clear, I intentionally made it clear, that we were looking at the more immediate delivery of services to the community, not something that's quite secondary, so that renovations to structures, et cetera, have merit eventually, but the payoff is really way down the road, and that need is much more immediate.
Yes.
And that's been our sentiment. As an aside, I was a prior medical director for New Leaf, so I'm quite familiar with their organization. I left them in 2014, so almost 10 years ago. Okay. But as I was saying, though, the unique aspect of CAFA is that because they deal with sexual and physical abuse, that those individuals are not regularly housed in the community in which that took place. That's to protect them, so that they're in a sanctuary, if you will, at some geographical distance. And there is a real sort of quid pro quo in which a community that lies at a distance will trade places because they have an equal need, and those individuals come here. But that's just the reasoning behind that. But your criticism has merit. I agree.
Yeah, and understand, I'm not in any way casting aspersions on these organizations. I know everybody, they mean well, they are dedicated folks. Like I said, I know folks in almost every one of these organizations, and they're dedicated people, many of whom are volunteers and such, and I admire that. So if we had unlimited funds, I would be handing them money all over, but I know we just have to make certain, and I know that's your thinking, is make the best use of the funds that are available.
Right, and I really would request that the council looks at various entities. Melinda Gates got criticized by Elon Musk for having funded various organizations, And in her effort to put herself forward even more forcefully, she doubled the amount that she gave them. So, but I think that that's a resource that we need to tap into. And we don't appear to be making efforts to do that. Arnold Schwarzenegger donated 2,500 tiny homes to Los Angeles to deal with the homeless. Those are ideas that should be explored, and entities that perhaps may want to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I really like the Superstition Food Bank. I would like to see more money given to them, because that is one of the big needs out there in our community. We have people right on the edge of losing their homes because of the economy, and if we can offset some of their food costs, it might be able to keep them housed. You see the lines going around the building all the time where they're handing out food. I know these other groups are good groups, but I want to see Apache Junction get the most bang for its buck for Apache Junction. And that's one thing I really would like to see more money go to the food bank overall.
Yeah, I think the commission absolutely concurs with your idea. That it's a very worthwhile entity. It has benefited very overtly, evidently, and there is, sadly, an ever-increasing need.
Right, and I like the $90,000 version.
Yeah, me too.
You just adopted 90,000. That was in the budget.
Oh, that was?
So,
Yeah.
That's really nice. I'm glad. That'll be helpful. Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Yes.
So this is the recommendations of this.
Yeah, correct. And it's left to your discretion on whether or not you want to modify them.
I mean, we had the Boys and Girls Club last year at 5674, and we're almost doubling it there. And I'm just trying to understand why that one in particular went so far up, because I'm like Ryan, that we need to really, the most immediate need seems to be food in our area. The number one inflation that people are feeling every single day is food and food security. And not that Boys and Girls Club is not important, it is, but you know, we raised it up by so much this year that I'm just curious why that wouldn't have been better used for a lot more cans of food for our people.
Let me try and take this across. So, yeah, 35,000, it was only 5674. It was, again, with my concern that they had a gala event, and that wasn't really publicized. Actually, I only discovered that after reading The Independent and saw that it was $175,000. So that was quite a bit. And as I said, they had a repeat of the gala event, and this year they made $200,000. So
They made 200,000?
I beg your pardon.
At that event, they made 200,000?
yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow.
Robert attempted to contribute to that one on the rifle.
I know, man, I wasn't gonna get any higher than $6,000 for a rifle.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So our plan is to bring this in a couple weeks for consent. If there's a change, you're the final body that can make that change. If you wanted to reduce and add, we need to know, I don't know what the best way, Matt, should we get it done right now? Or should we?
I think that would be best to discuss it at least among the council. So if we
Pull
know there's
back up
changes,
the-
we either
the
bring it
chart.
back on consent or
Matt, could
a
you put up
different
the
one.
chart real quick? Because
Yeah.
I think I felt that there was some discussion, of maybe doing a little reduction on one and adding to another. And if we can get that information tonight, that will help Jennifer, Evie, get the motion ready for the final review for you all, but still keeping it at the 90,000.
Well,
Or do you want to just go with the recommendation?
I agree with the 90.
I would like to see the amount for the Boys and Girls Club come down and be shifted to the food bank.
I second that.
Okay, how much?
Well, you said that they had $200,000 out there.
Correct.
Wouldn't it be amazing how much that we could do with the food at that rate? I'd like to see that drop back down to 5,000 and move the rest over to the food bank.
So you're moving 675?
You know, that would parallel the last year's funding, and that seems appropriate.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So I agree with Bambi and Brian. And so they're the Boys and Girls Club of the East Valley now, not the Apache Junction Boys and Girls Club. So I'm assuming they're also with Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, they're also in Phoenix.
It's Phoenix, no,
Yeah,
it's Boys and Girls Club of the Valley. It's now Phoenix.
they're a
No, this
national
is the East
organization as
Valley.
well.
Yeah, but
I like that idea.
Well, I'm assuming they're also getting funding from those other cities.
You know, we asked about that, and they claimed that they really didn't have any robust funding from those entities, but I don't know.
I'm going to throw some in here because and I understand that thinking. One organization that did not apply this year, Genesis Project. I've gotten to know these folks because I attend a AJ Homeless Coalition every month. I learned that 65% of the individuals who go to Genesis Project to get meals are not homeless. They have a place of residence, apartment, mobile home, whatever. They just, because of their limited income and the outrageous inflation, that they can't always afford to buy meals. So they're asking for nothing, and yet they're serving folks that are not homeless. I know, and that's a whole nother issue, but these are folks that have a place of residence here in Apache Junction, and we're giving them nothing. So I don't know if that's something you can I change that right now?
So the city code is very specific about this. They need to apply.
Okay, all right, that's
so
fine.
we would
I'm
not be able to.
But I'm
make a
just saying,
change, yeah.
I think, trust me, the
Yeah.
Superstition Community Food Bank they do a marvelous job, but they're not the only ones that serve this community. And I think, and I think the Boys and Girls Club, they do good work. They help kids after school and such that if they're not going there, these kids are going to get in a world of trouble. So I'm okay with where we are right now. Maybe next year rethink that. I'm okay where we stand with those numbers right now.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Brian, the problem I have with this is, is everybody on the same, at the same table with the understanding of what the Health and Human Services is for? What the original purpose of why it was set up for assisting the less fortunate, needy, disabled, someone who's disabled, seniors, children, people who have issues in our community. And I mean, when I was reviewing this, I had some real problems with, who is it now? My computer shut down. Desert Chapel. To me, they came to us because there's some money so that they could refurbish their place. That money is not directly assisting our community members. It's helping them with construction costs. And I don't see that as the purpose of Health and Human Services. So, and this isn't your issue, I'm sorry. But I don't know that it's not time that we really, really look at Health and Human Services. I mean, I think the amount of money that the city should be utilizing every year should be twice as much of what it is. I mean, literally, at least twice as much, but really get real specific about what the purpose of who we should be benefiting and why in our community. So I just wanted to throw that out on your plate. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Doctor, she brings up a point about the Desert Chapel. you mentioned that the funds that you're allocating for them is for help with the air conditioning. Do they have a cooling shelter for in the summertime? Is that why they're needing this?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
they are benefiting some of our homeless by giving them a retreat from the heat during the day.
Absolutely, and in light of the temperatures we've had, that's really critical. I mean, I believe Maricopa County had 690-some individuals that died secondary to heat exposure last year. I don't know what Pinell County was. I couldn't find the data on that, but I assume that it was proportionate.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor. Brian, the city offers air-conditioned places for the homeless to go to, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I got a problem with paying for infrastructure. Again, I do have a problem with that. We're trying to get the most bang for the buck. I would like to see us shift money from the Boys and Girls Club. They made a lot of money. If we could take whatever it was, the 5,000 and give it to the food bank, I think that'd be good. I'd even be willing to reduce or get rid of the Desert Chapel one. I don't know why we have to pay for their infrastructure. I mean, our city does offer that resource. So, I don't know.
Your Honor.
Yes.
As a follow-up to that, I have a list here of the area organizations that do provide heat relief and hydration. And Desert Chapel's listed just Saturdays, 11 to 5. So I agree with that. If that's their main focus. There are other organizations, I mean, the Salvation Army, the library, New Leaf, Genesis Project, they're all almost every day during the week. But Desert Chapel's one day for 6 hours. I'm not sure that's probably a way to.
And not to be overly defensive for them, but they offer a larger space than others. Genesis, for example, last year revealed to me that the volume of individuals that they could take in was 6. That's pretty meager. 6.
Sorry, there was Genesis?
Yeah, Genesis. 6 individuals as a heat respite. And I encouraged them to use a thermometer so that at least we could make sure that nobody had a temp of 104, because that's a medical emergency. And better use that data by documenting it to see what their intervention did to bring down the individual's temperature before they release them to the community.
Right.
But to his question, they're only doing it one day a week.
One day. I mean,
That's 6 days that they don't do it.
they have to go somewhere else the other 6 days.
I'm not comfortable with paying for infrastructure.
I understand that argument, and perhaps our commission was negligent in discerning whether or not that was a daily event or simply a once-a-week event. I own that I'm not familiar with whether or not that's the case.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Bryant, how do we go about changing?
Yeah, Your Honor, I'm not seeing a consensus. So we might just want to place Matt, we were thinking maybe on an agenda so that they can work through what their thoughts are, and then we can get direction to staff, Joel, and then
In
Old
2
business
weeks,
item.
we'll put it on
Old
as an old
business.
business item with the option to approve according to how you do it, or just to discuss, depending on if
Yep.
consensus can be.
Your Honor.
yeah, at this point, I think we should just put it on an agenda for old business and have y'all talk it through a little bit.
I got a question for Councilman Heck. Are you suggesting, Peter, that we take out Desert Chapel, give it to the food bank, but then leave the Boys and Girls Club exactly where it's at? So if you wanted to give the food bank a little more money because they do so much, take it from there. Is that basically where you stand?
I would be, again, I understand, the food bank they're marvelous folks.
Sure.
So yes, that would work for
But
me.
you wouldn't take from Boys and Girls Club to give it.
I would rather leave, my feeling, my position would be keep them where they are, but I'm okay with moving the Desert Chapel funds up to the food bank.
Is there anybody else good with moving $5,000 from the Boys and Girls Club over to the food bank?
Bambi is.
Can't vote.
Well, I spend all year long raising money for
you
the
have
Boys and
consensus?
Girls Club, so I can't hardly say that because I know what it takes, how many millions to run it. And getting 50,000 is a very small amount. So
I get it, but
I can't give you that answer.
Mr. Mayor, do you have consensus, or you want us to bring it back in?
Yes, bring it back.
Okay,
Okay?
bring it back in 2 weeks for old business.
Yes, in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever it is. Not tomorrow's
2 weeks.
night.
No,
Next
it'll be,
council meeting.
right. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dr. Burns.
Whoops. Now get out of there.
June 4th.
Okay. Presentation, discussion of fiscal year 2024-25 Health and Human Services funding recommendations.
That's the one we just
Not
finished.
again.
It's the streetlight improvement
Oh,
districts.
oh, wait a minute. I went too far. Work session.
Item number
lighting.
3.
Street lighting.
Yeah. Presentation, discussion, resolution number 24-18, adopting budgets and estimates for assessments of the Apache Junction street lighting improvement districts. Howdy.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Angeli Hawley, Finance Director. This resolution is to assess and adopt the cost of energy to light the street lights. Your Honor, this is an estimated calculation we do every year, which we will send to the county for collections to help pay for the expenditures. This resolution will be on your consent agenda for June 4th.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
No. One statement.
Yes?
Don't put any night lights in my neighborhood, okay?
Okay. We won't. No way.
We like it nice and dark.
Yes, sir.
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Presentation, discussion, Merit Group and Company broadband infrastructure projects.
Mr. Mayor, there's one more street light improvement district, number 4.
Oh,
You missed
okay.
Coyote Crossing.
Street lighting. Coyote, okay.
Couple coyotes tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Wilson, Vice Mayor Schroeder, council members. Emil Schmidt, city engineer. I'm down in the Public Works building on Baseline Avenue. And I'm here this evening to discuss a little bit about an individual streetlight district, not citywide. A streetlight district that we need to finalize and adopt a budget resolution for fiscal year 25. So the creation of a streetlight improvement district, or SLID, is a means whereby the electrical expenses of streetlights are paid by the levy and collection of taxes to the properties that are within that district. They are created by a process where a petition is submitted to the city, and then 3 resolutions follow up for forming that SLID. And one is the intent to form a SLID, which for Coyote Crossing was done back in March of 2021. A month later, the installation of streetlights resolution, the second resolution, was adopted or passed April 20th, 2021. And tonight, I am here to discuss a little bit about Resolution 24-21, which is the third and final resolution for this particular streetlight district, and that is adopting the final budget for fiscal year 25. And this will be on the consent agenda for tomorrow evening. So just real briefly, this is the Coyote Crossing subdivision. It's a small subdivision, 12 lots. It's at the southwest corner of Teepee Street and Idaho Road. That is a public street that you see in the middle of the subdivision there, Pueblo Drive. That's a cul-de-sac. And what you see on here are 6 streetlights. We have 3 that are on Pueblo Drive. Those are highlighted in a bright yellow. And those are the 3 streetlights that are included with this streetlight district. The other streetlights that you see on TP and Idaho Road are also installed with this project, but they are not included with the streetlight district. And the reason is that the city at large, the public at large, benefits from the use of these streetlights on the perimeter streets, and we didn't think it was fair that the residents of the subdivision would have to pay the power of the lights that the entire city is benefiting from. So that's why we only have the 3 lights on the interior street, Pueblo Drive. I did want to explain real briefly why there was such a huge gap in time from the first 2 resolutions in the spring of 2021, and here we are a little over 3 years later. This is a small development, small developer, small owner, and as such they operate under more of a feast or famine type of developing process for them. They don't have the staying power that some of these larger developers might have. So for example, during the design review process, drawings are submitted, staff reviews construction documents. We turn out some, in a lot of cases, some review comments, things that need to be addressed. And it seems apparent that with some of these smaller developers, it will take a long time before we see a resubmittal of these drawings, whereas with a larger developer that has a well-greased and well-oiled operation, we tend to see resubmittals come in fairly quickly. So with this one, there was a long time between submittals and final project approval. And it's the same case with construction. Construction has been intermittent. Again, it depends on the financial capabilities of the developer. This subdivision is currently under construction, and we are at a point now where we need to close up this particular streetlight district and have it done. So in this subdivision, we have 12 homes, a total of 3 streetlights, and at $6.28 a month per streetlight is the electrical cost. The annual levy for this particular district will be $226.08. Divided by 12, that's basically about $18.84 per home per year. And that's just for the 3 streetlights lighting up their street in front of their homes. As I mentioned, this will be on the consent agenda tomorrow evening, and staff respectfully request that the mayor and council approve this resolution and get this one on the books as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions, comments, concerns.
No questions?
Yes. Your Honor. So, Emil, you mentioned the 3 streetlights in the development. The other 3 streetlights, that's the city we'll do that ourselves then?
Correct. Yeah, those lights the city would be paying for.
Okay. Yeah. Do we typically do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have since I've been doing streetlight districts. We haven't done streetlight districts for a long time. You know, I've been here a little over almost 16 years, sorry. And it hasn't been until about 3 years ago when we started with streetlight districts again. Okay. But in reviewing our process and doing it, we thought that it was fair to do it this way because, it might be easier for us to absorb the electrical cost than it is to tell these 12 owners that they need to pay for the lights that thousands of vehicles are using on Idaho Road. We just thought that was fair. That's the way we operate. If we need to look at that, change that or amend that or whatever, we're certainly open to doing that, but that's what we've been doing recently.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Emil, just a curiosity question. You almost answered it there, but how do they get billed annually or something for an electric bill for this district?
Salt River Project, or SRP, charges us for the power. So when we have a development such as this that comes in, and the same process with Superstition Vistas down south, they install X number of streetlights, and when they get to the point where they're ready to power those up, then I issue what's called a letter of authorization to Salt River Project, basically telling them you're authorized to start billing the city for streetlights related to this project. and then they'll just add that to our books, so to speak.
No, but I mean, for the 3 streetlights, the people who live there, how do they get billed?
It's
Just
on their
curious.
It'll be a tax levy on their.
Okay.
Correct. Sorry, I misunderstood your question, sorry.
Your Honor,
Yes.
the street lights out on TP and the one on the corner of Idaho, is TP got other street lights?
There are, further to the west, there's
It's
Apache Junction Villas.
Apache Junction Villas. has-
They had
have
off-site
streetlights.
improvements that they installed similar to
Yeah.
this, and I believe they have
Do they pay for
because there was a
theirs?
neighbor kitty corner that was a little concerned about the amount of light, and we actually adjusted one of those streetlight fixtures to.
Do they pay for their street lights, or do we pay for their street lights?
That, again, those are on the perimeter streets, so we would be paying for those. And in that case, Apache Junction Villas, the streets on the interior are private, so those are their street lights they maintain, they pay for those.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Emil, I'm gonna go on a limb here. These are dark sky approved lights.
They meet our current street light standards. It's a flat fixture. It's not the old bulb type that has a lot of light
Lumens.
shining down. Yeah, that's all Greek to me, the lumens and whatever, but they,
Can you find out if they fit dark skies? Because everybody on council
They
is
have to
pretty
fit the
much,
star skies.
huh?
They fit our current city code. We'll see if that matches up to current dark sky requirements, but they fit our dark sky, our current dark sky code.
So may I suggest if they don't meet the lumens of the dark sky code, but they do of our city code, that request a shield on them to at least
Yes.
point it down?
Yep. We can request that, right?
yeah, I believe that's what we did on one of the lights at the corner of TP and Plaza. There was a neighbor kitty corner that had a similar issue with the amount of light.
Yeah, we do work really closely with neighbors and with SRP to get that to happen, to help out the situation. And TP is that street right there where many times council policy has been just north of TP and east of Royal Palm. We are very sensitive as a city and a community towards the dark skies.
Because north of that is the.
That is the
large
area, that's
lots
right.
and-
That is the line, yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yep.
I'm just glad to see this development moving forward. I
been
was
lingering
on
a
planning
long
and
time.
zoning when it was approved, so.
I hope it keeps going.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Any
been
other questions?
taking forever. Thanks, Emil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oops, son of a gun. Don't touch your screen. Presentation, discussion, the merit group.
And Mayor, the next 2 items can be
Okay.
presented together.
Okay, then, presentation, discussion of retroactive approval for critical fiber. Yes.
Mayor, council members, I'm Doug Worthkin, the IT Director for the City of Apache Junction. Good evening. Last year, IT, Public Works, and Water District staff identified a critical need to connect conduit and fiber between the water treatment plant on Ironwood and the Public Works yard, including the Animal Control Building on Baseline. The existing internet access was susceptible to a permanent interruption service and needed immediate and sustainable upgrade. Consequently, Mirrors Incorporated was engaged to complete the infrastructure in May of '23, and we used ARPA funding for that as well at $327,572. And any questions on that?
So, Mayor and Council, for this particular part of the presentation, we have on your consent agenda tomorrow evening, I believe. Or do we bump it out, Joel? 2 weeks, okay, they're both 2 weeks out.
We both
Okay,
did 2 weeks. Yeah.
sorry.
They're both 2 weeks.
Thank
Okay. No questions? Okay.
Well, you're just covering the change order one?
The retroactive one.
Retroactive one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right. And this is the number 6?
Yeah, we actually flipped to the order. You
Yeah.
took the number 6 first, but that's okay. This is number 5.
That's what threw me
Right.
off.
Fiber wa.
This is
fiber
the
from
$1 million
water
one?
treatment plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, council members. So this last year, City IT, Water District, and then our city attorney negotiated an agreement with Mirrors through several months. And Mirrors is a broadband company that does national engineering, design, and construction, among other things, fiber, broadband infrastructure, and network systems. Using the master agreement, the city Mirrors broadband individual contracts will be on Exhibit A once this master agreement is moving forward. So this will be the first project under that master agreement. And basically, it's going from our city campus, our water treatment plant, and then connecting the other city infrastructure, the pool, skate park, water booster, and then also includes the fire districts and fire stations on both Idaho, that's just close to that booster, and then also on Superstition Springs, the fire district there as well. And that's public infrastructure of radios and 911. And then also the existing signal lights would be on that as well. And it's going to be ARPA funds as well, the remaining. And it's $1,151,095 for that. And staff recommends the master agreement with the built-in work order procurement and also proposed broadband on Ironwood and system connecting public facilities project. Any questions?
Yeah. I got several.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On the last page of the proposal, are these official documents? So, let's see, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th proposal, or dot, bullet mark. He's pulling it up.
Let me get to it. Is it the
Keep
sign
going
one?
over one more to the right. Yep. I believe that's the right one. Okay, second page.
Oh, in the Exhibit A, yes.
Yeah. So right down a little bit more with, okay, from the bottom up on the bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth one up. 5. Yeah. You have proposal. After the first word of excavating, are we handing or are we handling? It's a typo. Handling, okay. Next one on my point was the slurry backfill, which is a couple down from there.
The next one, yeah.
Next one.
Slurry backfill has not been specified and therefore is not part of the pricing. Is any of this conduit being slurry sealed, or is it just going to be direct burial?
I'm going to ask Mike Loggins to come up, or Emil to come up, yes. When we get it below the ground, I need help.
Typically, for any open trenching under pavements, existing pavements, we require a half-sack slurry, which is kind of a heavily cemented soil, if you will, because we found that with just placing natural fill on a trench and then paving over top of it, a lot of times, unless it's compacted properly, you have to do it every foot, you have to compact it. If not, then we tend to see trench failures where the pavement sags in and causes problems. So it's a lot easier and quicker to do the slurry backfill. You do it, it cures in 24 hours, you come back and pave the next day and you're done.
But according to this, it's not part of the agreement.
Well, I'm just answering the function of slurry and how it
Yeah,
works, but as
yeah,
far as the agreement
okay.
goes, I don't know.
Now, number 2.
Come on down.
Good evening, Mayor Wilson and members of the council. Mike Loggins, Water District Director. This particular contractor used boring, directional boring to do all this, so there's no open trenching. So the slurry requirements would not be required by the city at that time because it's going to be all boring, bringing it up in pits in different areas outside the roadway as they go through the city. So it wouldn't be under pavement in most of the areas that we're going, or if they are, they're just boring directionally out into the pavement, going up and then coming back outside of it so that they wouldn't have any slurry backfill or anything like that.
Gotcha. And then the ADA ramp replacements, we don't foresee any ADA ramps being damaged or destroyed?
Hopefully not, that's what the boring process is for. The pits would be outside of that, and they would come to the pits. It would not end up coming up through those ADA compliant ramps.
Okay, and then your, another spot, you have 3-foot conduits instead of 3-inch conduits. Not on this page, it's on the,
It's on the other one.
it's on the work order. Work order number 3.
Yeah, that's 3-inch, and actually ADOT turned over conduit between Apache Trail on Ironwood all the way to Superstition to the city. So we're using that existing conduit to put interducts inside to take advantage and less cost, and also between, what is that street? The one down south, 16th or 36th Avenue to the freeway. Oh, no, 36th Avenue down to Baseline.
Okay.
ADOT also gave up those, and we're using that existing conduit to save costs as well. It is 3-inch, so we're doing 2 1.25-inch interducts in those to take advantage of that.
Good. And that leads me to my last question.
Sure.
We've scoped all of the 3-inch conduits to make sure they're viable and that they're not collapsed or damaged. In
Mandrel
making use of them.
testing, yes, sir. Mandrel,
Yeah.
like we did down south with the developer. Once they finished their conduit, we did mandrel testing. So you do a mandrel.
What'd you call it?
Mandrel.
Mandrel.
So it's basically a is it wood?
Like a roto-rooter?
Plastic that you do through it to the integrity of the conduit to pull it from one end to the other to make sure the conduit hasn't collapsed anywhere. That's what it's for.
Very good.
And that'll be part of the testing, yes.
All right, good. Yes.
Those are good
Don't
questions.
like change orders.
No, I get you.
Oh, this conduit's completely collapsed and we should have known better.
Right.
Right.
Good question.
Your Honor, so just
Thanks, Doug.
quick question, probably more for Brian. I thought ARPA funds really weren't available any longer. Are we still?
My understanding, this is exactly what they're for, but Matt, we've been working with finance on this and make sure that it fits that appropriation with the federal government and to get these spent in the right way, and I think this is what it's for, yeah.
So their ARPA funds are still available if
Yep.
requesting the proper.
Right, the most recent amount that we got from the last distribution, what, two years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought they were no longer available, but they are, I guess.
Yeah, so we got distributed a certain amount, and we have until a certain date to spend them.
So we've recognized the revenue from back then, and we have a certain amount of time to spend it.
Oh, okay, so
Until-
that's,
yeah.
we already
That
have
makes
that.
more sense.
We're just now using that money that
Yes.
we, okay, now that makes more sense. to me.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay,
It's a big expense, but good investment.
that makes, it's a good idea, good idea.
Any other questions? Okay, presentation, discussion on Resolution 2420, authorizing the City of Apache Junction to enter into an intergovernment agreement with Apache Junction Unified School District, number 43, for grant funding school resource officers.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name's Cindy Ewer, and I oversee the school resource officers, which is part of the Criminal Investigations Division at Apache Junction Police Department. We're here to discuss the IGA between the Unified School District and Apache Junction Police Department to provide 2 additional school resource officers that is being funded by the Department of Education in Arizona. As you all know, we are committed to the safety of our students here in Apache Junction, and with that, we've committed to providing a school resource officer to any of the schools in Apache Junction that request it. So we've been working with the Unified School District here that has requested to get a school resource officer at our 2 elementary schools that they oversee, which would be Desert Vista Elementary and Four Peaks Elementary. They also have Peralta Trail, which is something that we're looking into for the future, but right now we've got 2 slated positions that are being funded by the Department of Education in the excess of $139,000 that will pay for the salaries of those employees and the benefits. So really, we're getting 2 officers that are going to be stationed at both of those schools for the next school year, and then they will also receive benefits that are being paid for through this grant. In addition to that, we're also looking at Imagine Prep Superstition, which is not part of this IGA, but it is something that we're looking at in the future. as well as this grant will include the Peralta Trail and then the SMES, thank you, SMES school. If that comes into fruition, we will look at also putting a school resource officer there with funding. So, yeah, that's all we've got. Questions?
Yeah, this is consistent with your goal to get this done, and so we are very much appreciative of that policy statement that you all have, and we've been working hard, and congratulate the AJPD for getting us here.
And this is on the consent agenda for tomorrow evening to
Thank you.
get it going.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Again, you can't invest enough in our youth. And it is absolutely critical to have police officers on campus, not only for safety, but building those relationships and long-term relationships with these kids so that they have a good person they can go to and talk to and get educated by. So I love this.
Yeah, traditionally they don't do elementary schools, but they have agreed to provide school resource officers to our elementary students. So with the increasing teen violence in the valley, I think getting education and a relationship with our children earlier than later is very important. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, elementary, junior high, high school. They need to be in all of them if we can do it.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So you had mentioned Imagine Prep charter school. We are getting a couple more schools built down south, and they're talking one of them next year be open. Is
Yeah, absolutely.
Also something you're looking into to get.
Right, so the Imagine Prep, we're in the works with that already with the service agreement, so that should be coming across probably in the next few weeks or in another month. As those schools get built, the ALA school, the other schools that are down south will definitely work with getting school resource officers in those schools as they get built up. Hopefully, we can have that done as they open so that we're not coming in after the fact. It'll be part of the transition with their building and their movement forward, so we can work together in that partnership.
Perfect.
Yes.
Just one school that wasn't mentioned, and it's not a part of the HAUST, it's Apache Trail High School. Will that continue to have an SRO?
Yes, our Apache Trail High School, the service agreement that we have with them is still under contract. This one right now is expiring at the end of this month, so that's why we're renewing it, plus extending it to include the other schools. So Apache Trail is still set to go. We don't have anything that needs to be adjusted for that. The funding is still being provided.
Well, I applaud you folks for pushing this and getting this done, because as Brian said, when I hear these school shootings, it just sends chills up and down my spine, thinking that we've got schools that are soft targets, and I think putting an SRO there and makes it.
The principals were very excited, very welcoming. They were really wanting to jump on it. It was an easy yes for them from both of those schools. So we're really fortunate that we have the support from the school staff already.
That's great. Thank you, Cindy. That's great.
Your Honor. I'm sorry, just one last question. Sure. So when we start talking about, okay, the new schools down south, Imagine Prep, you rattled off a few other schools. So are we looking, 8, 9 altogether?
So right now we have 3 total. This would increase to 5. Peralta Trail would be 6. And then when we get the schools down there, that would be however many they end up building, I guess 2 or 3. But there is a possibility if a school isn't using it to a full resource where you could split one officer for 2 schools. So say there's like maybe a partial funding or something for one school, we could also split it. But depending on how that works, that would put us at like 8 or 9, which is really great for us because it provides a good quorum of all of them where they can get together and use each other's resources. It also helps cover each other when they're out. You know, it provides a cohesive unit together so that we can put together these school programs that we have in the summertime that we're looking forward to this summer through the school district, where we're bringing kids in and we're giving them something to do in the summertime. It will provide us additional bodies for that.
So the main reason why I asked is because 2 of them are secured with grants. So let's just say you got 9. So
Right.
2 of them are secured with grants, so that leaves 7. Is this something that is in your budget, or do we need to take another look at this to try to pad that a little bit so this is possible?
So all of our school resource officers now are provided by grant money. The additional 2 will also be funded by grant money. If there is no funding available, then we would have to have a discussion as a city as far as where we want to go with our position moving forward. But I have no reason to think that the funding is not going to be there. The funding through the state right now is in excess, to the point where they're paying off-duty officers from other cities to come in and work in schools as an off-duty job because they have the money there. There's just not a lot of schools that are able to have a resource officer, and there's agencies in the valley that are so short-staffed that they can't staff those school resource officers. So we have a benefit of where we have officers that want to come here and be school resource officers for our city, and we're able to get those staffed with those people that want to truly do that job.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is a wonderful combination of a police department that's staying ahead of the curve, the ability to have a school district and charter schools that want this. Not all districts do if you watch the news on it. And then the ability to have our own grant funding efforts to go out and get it, because they're expensive if they're going out to get other resource officers to go in from other cities. So I applaud the work that we're doing here. It's great.
Your Honor, I have one last question, Cindy. So you mentioned SMES. Now, my understanding is that's just an early learning center. That's not actually a functioning elementary school, am I?
Correct. No, correct. It's a 10-year IGA. So the school district and we have decided to put it in there in case at some point so we don't have to rewrite it
We're
or
not funding
do an
that right
agenda.
now, then.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not something that we're looking at staffing right now, but we wanted to include it because it is an AJ Unified School District facility in case something were to open up there, since it's such a long grant. Or IGA, I'm sorry.
Perfect, thank you, that's great.
Thank you. Okay. Presentation, discussion, resolution 2419, allowing the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the East Valley Critical Incident Response Team.
Mayor, members of council, thank you for letting us come here tonight, present on this. This will be a quick little presentation. Back 2 years ago, the Arizona State Legislature created a new law, which I thought was great for law enforcement. The law basically states that no law enforcement agency will investigate their own critical incident, which a critical incident is an officer-involved shooting or possibly an in-custody death if somebody were to die in our custody, whether it was a medical reason or maybe mistreatment or whatever it may be. Any of those critical incidents, as of June 30th of 2025, is going to be required by law to be investigated by an outside agency. So a police department can no longer investigate themselves. I'm in support of this like every other Valley chief and chief here in Arizona. Because of that, we've come up with an East Valley Critical Incident Response Team. This includes the cities of Gilbert, Mesa, Chandler, Tempe, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, Queen Creek, and the city of Apache Junction, which that would mean going into this IGA that we would support other cities as they would support us in the case of a critical incident. Luckily, we do not have very many of these in the history of our department. And other cities have more than us, which is why we will share the workload. But this agreement will be to go in stating that we will follow the rules of the city that we are going to be investigating and assisting with on any type of a critical incident. And this will be going to you for adoption. And is this on consent tomorrow, or is this 2 weeks out? 2 weeks out. Okay, sorry about that. It is going to be 2 weeks out, but if you have any questions, here to answer.
Yes.
My question is, so with all these different cities, and we don't think that if we're really lucky and everything stays the way it is around here, we won't need too many people to be investigating in Apache Junction 1. When it is one of the other cities, how do they just take turns and say, so I'm just wondering, how much of our time ends up investigating a lot of other areas that have maybe these kind of incidents. Do we think this is going to be like a couple incidents a year based on the fact that it's spread around, or what?
Yes, great question. And that was the concern of myself and every other police department as well. There are agencies that have more than other agencies, right? And officer-involved shooting or a critical incident is, we can't predict when they're going to happen. But what we're doing is, what we've planned on is, we are going to have a rotation basis. The Apache Junction Police Department right now will never be the primary agency because we are smaller and because we don't have the amount of workload that other agencies do. Our role right now will be a support, in a support role for those critical incidents. We will cap it, I believe it's at 8 officer-involved shootings or responses per year for the department. So we are going to be partnered with other agencies, and we will investigate the Mesa Police Department's any critical incident out of the Mesa Police Department or the city of Mesa. Mesa will take the rest of the East Valley. If there's a critical incident in Scottsdale, Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, Apache Junction, the city of Mesa will come in and investigate those.
So Brian, we're watching you.
If you want, my opinion on this is a good thing. Because there's always doubt when an agency investigates itself. You can do everything right, but people are going to say, there's a doubt. This takes that doubt away. Other agencies come in, make it clean, and you have a right, if you don't like the findings, to dispute those as a chief. I don't foresee that happening very often, but if something looked weird, you could look into it and dispute it from what I read on it.
Correct.
You're on.
Yes.
So Chief, this is only for critical things. I mean, because say a department can't investigate itself. I mean, if someone just had a typical, atypical complaint on an officer, that the department would still investigate that.
Yes.
But just only if it's some sort of death or something along those lines.
Yeah, and this is for only the criminal investigation. So in an officer-involved shooting, you have a criminal investigation and you have an administrative investigation. The criminal is to see if there is possible charges that need to be submitted to the county attorney on the police officer, whereas there may be a policy violation, which we will still investigate internally. So if we have a critical incident within our own city, the criminal investigation, which takes priority, will be investigated by the outside agency or the Mesa Police Department. However, we will also conduct an administrative investigation to make sure that policy was followed and that there was, an officer can be cleared criminally, but they may be out of policy, which for us, that's a big deal. If they're out of policy, then that needs to be investigated and they need to be held accountable administratively up to termination.
So what is, I know you got the criminal and administrative, what if it conflicts? I mean, how do you handle that situation if they say, hey, on the criminal side, we find this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, but it would kind of overlap with the administrative side saying, well, how we looked into it, that wouldn't necessarily make that wrong, how you're saying on your end. I'm just curious on if that should ever happen, or is this going on and we just are part of this? This is new, right? This isn't something that's been going on and we're being a part of it now. This isn't the wheel here. There are situations where other agencies investigate, like the criminal end of other agencies.
Absolutely. So a lot of times what happens, ever since we've been doing these, and in law enforcement, there has always been a criminal and an administrative investigation. The criminal takes precedence. A lot of times the administrative investigation waits until the criminal investigation is done, and they take everything that was done on the criminal investigation, they review it, and they look into policy violations. For example, if there was a use of force incident where they didn't follow training protocol, or if they were in a pursuit and they didn't terminate the pursuit in an appropriate time, then yeah, that's a policy violation. It's not going to be a criminal because it's not against the law, but it could be definitely a administrative policy violation where they face termination.
And just to let you know, Rob, both of those, if you combine them, if you do the internal investigation for policy and that information gets leaked into the criminal, the case is dead. And no matter what the officer did, he's going to walk. that's happened across the country. That's why a lot of departments will not do the internal until the criminal's done, because if you mess up and cross over lines, your case is done. This separates that, so now they can move forward, because you got people sitting there and they're wondering, you know, when you have an IA case or internal affairs case hanging over your head, it's very stressful, along with the criminal. They could do the IA case while the other group does the criminal case. There's no bleed over, and this all gets resolved almost at the same time. And it's a lot better for the officer, no matter how it comes out. It's just better for the officer because they know faster. Because usually you wait for the criminal to complete, then you have to wait for the IA to complete, which is just a
Right,
long time.
I get that, but that's how it's being done all in-house, right? But in this situation, they'll be happening simultaneously, right? Or would you wait?
We would still wait
You would
for
still
the
wait?
criminal. Yeah, there's what's called the Officer Bill of Rights. It's actually an Arizona revised statute. It's legislation, Title 38, I believe, which is
381101.
yeah, 38 if you want to look into it. But it says there's guidelines that we have to follow when we are doing a internal investigation or an administrative investigation on a police officer. And which is why what Councilman Solar said is usually almost always the way we do these types is we wait till the criminal is done and we do the internal or the administrative right behind it with the conclusions.
So virtually no change in how you do it, it's just, in this case, another agency.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just also there's a funding thing where you could apply for a grant, and that's in the agreement. And so some of the reimbursement could come back to the city if there's funds available. That's number one. And number two, when the federal government looks at these investigations, because they could do their own investigation depending on what really happened, it's good to separate it out, and this is a much better way to go, and it does comport with federal law.
Okay.
Thank you.
No other comments?
Thank-
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.